You have a business that's losing money. How much cash, how strong is your balance sheet to get you through this crisis? Its ride segment is seeing a 60 to 70% decline in areas hit hardest, but the food delivery segment is picking up. This goes to the point of having an asset-light business where the inventory, where the supply that your customers are consuming doesn't sit on your balance sheet.
2 days ago, I was talking about how it didn't make sense to me why Uber was down so much. I mean, Uber stock was just plummeting down to what is this? Yeah, $14 a share from $40 a share a month ago, right? I mean, tanking. Lyft stock was basically following step in step to what was happening with Uber stock, which it didn't make sense to me because Uber is a platform conglomerate, because Uber's balance sheet is much stronger than Lyft's. Yesterday, Dara, the CEO of Uber, came out and said that they have plenty of cash to get through the coronavirus crisis, right? So we've talked on the show about how companies, doesn't matter if you're platform or not, companies with stronger balance sheets are going to be much more strongly favored in this period of time when there's so much uncertainty. So if you got a business like many of the platforms that have recently IPO'd, which are losing money, if you have a business that's losing money, how much cash, how strong is your balance sheet to get you through this crisis? So the Uber CEO is saying its ride segment is seeing a 60 to 70% decline in areas hit hardest, but the food delivery segment is picking up. And the stock rallied 40% on Thursday. I think it ended about 31% on Thursday. It was up again today, but I think it ended down today, maybe, or break even. And that made more sense to me. On Wednesday, just how aggressively it was down, it just wasn't making sense to me. And then Uber said, yeah, we have plenty of cash. The interesting thing is that Lyft stock has basically followed exactly what Uber stock has done. And Lyft is a very different company. Yes, they both do ride sharing. Lyft is a much smaller ride. They're the number 2 player and a somewhat distant number 2 in ride sharing. They're not a platform conglomerate. They don't have a food delivery business. It's a much different business. Even before coronavirus hit on the show, we've talked about how Lyft has given much less guidance, much less transparency on guidance, right? They don't show GMV, they only show revenue. So Lyft was not sharing as much information as Uber was. And we felt that that was because Lyft knew that they were going to have a tougher time. And under the scrutiny of being a public company, they decided to share less information so they have a much greater ability to control what revenue is than GMV. Revenue is a derivative of GMV, and what their take rate is. GMV is your GMV. It's your total throughput. And so that we felt was a kind of foreshadowing of some potential weakness in the Lyft stock. I still think that you're going to see Uber come out much stronger on this than you're going to see Lyft, primarily because of that platform conglomerate difference. There's a tweet here that Uber modeled that if its ride business declined 80% year over year for the rest of the year, the whole thing, not just in select markets, as a worst case scenario, 80% decline, Uber will still have $4 billion in cash on December 31st. And this is also interesting. Goes back to the whole point about platform businesses. Reason is about 2/3 of its costs, including insurance, don't happen when trips don't happen. They don't have the overhead. The rides don't happen. They're not paying the drivers. Now, a lot of drivers are suffering. I'm not rejoicing in that fact, but from a business model standpoint, this goes to the point of having an asset-light business where the inventory, where the supply that your customers are consuming doesn't sit on your balance sheet. So when you don't have any demand, unlike Delta, which this art right here is saying Delta is going to have a $10 billion hit in revenue, yikes. Delta has to pay those leases for those planes. Uber doesn't. And that kind of just goes back to show you the strength of platforms versus these linear companies in these crazy times. These asset-light businesses in periods of drastic consumer demand decline, they have smaller overhead. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.